So for Sinopale, I worked with an app that had image recognition, so that the images could be printed on site, so that no pieces had to travel, and people used their own smartphones to use the app. And the imagery was embedded into thinking about the place, or how people are gathered around the square, or the history of Sinopale as far as I was concerned. And the reactions, of course, were not always for me to know about, but it became more storytelling about how people reacted and what people saw with this piece. And I think that this kind of stories about, I'm very much about connecting the body to the digital material, and also to share this hallucinatory digital experiences. So it's not so much about the escapism. I'm not interested in going into other worlds, but rather than to enhance the world and the things that we share together. So the stories from Sinopale has very much led my decision making when I've been working further with different projects that have connection between images and cell phones and bodies. So even though I wasn't there to participate in all reactions, it really affected how I worked. And the imagery is of keyboard images on a kind of projected onto an image of a fountain, or this idea of a fountain being something that you gather around, but the keyboard being something that you have this only you and the keyboard, and you're like a lone wolf or like a lone dog, but this was to gather around and to share the experience. This app was built pre-Pokemon Go, so it's a very stable app. And when you look at this carpet that is on the floor, you also have this presence of this wolf, not very animated, but just enough to know that it's kind of there. And it's, of course, it's in between friendly and maybe something else. So there it is. What happened also in Sinopale, maybe that it became, it's almost like it came home somehow. The piece found its place, and I used the same imagery also in Romania. When I worked in schools during a Biennale, the Art Encounters, 2019. The wish between humans to share is something that, of course, is my trigger. I just see that as beautiful. Whenever we read a good book, the first impulse is when we close it, we want to give it to someone else. So the first, like everything is about wanting to share. And then you have companies maybe capitalizing on this, but I think it's also important for artists to be inside this smartphones and to think of it as a possibility to make poetry. And that can be shared and that can be used in ways that are not meant to buy something or to give any information about yourself. That can be traded and sold. But this is just about more about, and you can't take a selfie with my apps. That's really important. So the only thing is that you can see others experiencing things, so that you kind of share a moment where you imagine each other being in a situation that is perhaps not in the meat world. But when I first started the process, I thought it would be something I got tired after a month, but then I've been continuing since 2014. It's something that still triggers me, and I think it's because smartphones are still so much a presence in the society that we're in. So I think that many people are like, oh, but then you can do like virtual reality, and I'm not interested in escapism. I'm interested in the everyday annoying presence of the smartphones, and to transform that into something that I could, something that is poetry, or a sort of that triggers other modes of behavior. Today I'm going to actually test a new app that was part of a research project, you can say, that where I looked more into Swedish working class movement banners and how to kind of massage them together with my students at Konstfack. So we did remakes of old flags that we kind of, everyone did parts that we put together, a little bit like a Zoom conference, but then very much craft. And then in order to be able to disseminate or to spread this, I have made an app so that you can anywhere, the crafted banners were then digitalized so that they can perform kind of gig economy demonstration on their own anywhere on any street. So it's the streets are still my kind of where I want this art to be.
And it's really, I mean, in a way, you're really defining the idea of what public art can be.
Yeah. So I'm really interested in this, and I think that's why the smartphone is perfect for me in this way, because it's there's something with this super private, the most private and the most public is in this device. So it's, I mean, it's irresistible as a tool. Thank you.
Ja, fint.